Thank you so much for coming.
Well, Kathleen, to start us off, from what you've learned in your beautiful career, what advice would you give to actors about sustaining a long-term career while remaining curious and true to that unique creative voice that is theirs?
Goodness me, Laura.
I know we've just been gabbing in the back, but
I know, we've been talking about
now
stuff.
we've gone to the cards, Kathleen.
You just have to stick with it. And if it's I've never wanted to do anything else. And so I feel like it's an enormous privilege to have been able to spend a life doing it. I believe the thing that people say, that if you can think of anything else to do, you should probably do that. And the other thing is, you never know what might happen. I have to say that I find it astonishing to have this be happening to me when I'm 80 years old. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Well, you bring up a great point. Early on in your career, what did success look like to you? What was the dream goal for you?
It's hard to. I grew up in California, and I think I always wanted to be in the movies, and I always wanted to be in the cowboy movies. So when I was 7 to 10, success looked to me like being able to ride a horse and having somebody kiss me. I have been kissed. I have never ridden a horse in any piece of acting I've ever done. After that, I've had a strange career, and so there, over and over again, I've kept thinking I've thought, well, this is fine. I'm working all the time, and this is fine, and that's okay. And then something else would happen. And so I have been astoundingly fortunate in my life, in the things that people have asked me to do. So I didn't have a clear idea of what success might be. And what that's meant is that each time some other astonishing thing has happened, it's been a surprise and a whole new adventure.
Well, I'm curious what you look for in a fellow collaborator when you're approaching a project or you're approaching a play or a director. What do you look for in those collaborations?
Generosity.
There you go. Now, you created a rich and textured interior life for Ruth. How did you find her voice with the minimal dialogue and a more tactile approach to her moving through the world?
Well, there were two things. There's a thing about playing someone who has dementia, which is that one of the features of dementia is that you live in the moment, which, as all of us who are actors know, they keep telling you in acting class that that's what you're supposed to do. And it takes you a lifetime to figure, what the fuck does that mean? Live in the moment. But sorry, but so we made a decision early on that continuity, emotional continuity, wasn't an issue in the movie, so that each scene was an entire, a completed event. And then at the very time the script came to me, my best friend, who's the playwright Sybil Pearson, was in about the same place in her dementia journey as Ruth. And we were the people who knew each other's secrets. We met in front of the school where both our sons, her younger son and my older child were in kindergarten. So they were friends, and Sybil and I became friends. And now I'm the only one who knows the secrets. But I learned from Sybil how to play Ruth. And in some way it was a tribute to Sybil that I could give, but much more importantly, it was Sybil's gift to me. And I saw how much that was true when I saw the movie in Venice. I hadn't seen it before, and as you know, you sort of don't like to watch yourself so much. And if you're in the movie a lot, you think, I don't know if I can see that movie. But as soon as it began, because it was the world premiere in Venice, and it would have been churlish not to show up. So, but it was Sybil, and I hadn't understood how much of Sybil I had internalized in making the character, and so that's what made it possible for me to watch it. So that, in a way, Ruth was Sybil, and she's not so different from me. The genius of the film, I think, which is Sarah, the brilliant young director's doing, is to make this a movie about dementia from the point of view of the person who has dementia, so that it's not a chronicle of loss and tragedy, because everybody's alive until they're not. And so you're still in there.
You're going to make me cry. What was it in your training or just your body of work that helped you learn that stillness and that presence?
I have no idea.
Pass it is. We'll keep it going.
I mean, I guess I make a joke all the time, is that there's a very fine line between subtlety and doing nothing at all. So that's as close as I can get an answer.
Ruth's physical life feels very specific, her pace and her hesitations and her way of touching things. How did you explore and refine her physical vocabulary? Because it felt as if there were almost two languages you were speaking throughout the film.
I'm not sure Ruth's physical vocabulary was very important to Sarah, because Sarah's background was in dance, and one of the things that interested her about this subject were the ways, the nonverbal ways in which people retained their humanity and expressed themselves. So I think that I just did what I thought Ruth would do, and it was in the editing, in the choice of, because as you know, in the movies, if nobody took a picture of it, it didn't happen. So it was very much the director and the editor's choice about what you see. And then there were specific things that I knew that I'd learned from people, like the opening where Ruth is going through the closet is something that I knew. The other person that I learned about dementia from was my wonderful mother-in-law, who only developed dementia when she was 94. So it's not so much. But anyway, and she lived to be 98. But one of the ways we knew that she was beginning to have dementia was that she found it difficult to dress herself because there were too many choices. And I remembered that when in that scene. So that's an example.
Yeah. How did you start finding, was there a physical in or a mannerism or something for you that helped you find into Ruth? Or how did you get to know her?
I don't, you know what, Laura? I don't. I just did. And part of it, I mean, I have to say that I was the last member of the collaboration to come into the film. They'd done developmental work for some time on the movie with someone else who became ill and couldn't do it. So it would have been impossible. And by the way, we shot the movie in 18 and a half days. 8-hour days, because we were working at Villa Gardens, so we could only work 8 hours a day. And that the entire enterprise would have been impossible had the sort of core creative team, which was Sarah, her cinematographer, and her production designer, not written a shot list for every scene in the movie. There's nothing that's improvised in the movie except the list of words beginning with F. Otherwise, every single, and there was a shot list for every scene. I didn't know this because was not information I needed to have, but I found it out later, that a sort of 3-tiered shot list, which went what we have to get, what it would be nice to get, and if we get everything else, wouldn't this be great? And so it was beautifully prepared so that you could walk into it. It was like walking into a well-furnished room, and, it doesn't matter which chair you sit in.
Well, like we were talking backstage, I had the chance to talk to casting director Betsy Ware-Fippinger, and she was so complimentary of your vulnerability and your artistry that you brought to Ruth. And I'm curious, and I would love to hear how you started forming a trust with Sarah with limited pre-production time, how you started getting to know one another and having that safety net with working with such a vulnerable material.
Well, Sarah and I met on Zoom, the way you do, about 2 weeks before I was hired, which was 2 weeks and 1 day before shooting started. And we discovered, oddly, Sarah, at that time, I was 78 and Sarah was 30. Then we discovered we had all kinds of things in common. We knew a whole bunch of people in common, oddly, and our real connection was Rome, because I lived in Rome when I was first married and studied acting in Rome, and Sarah's dad is a sociology professor. And so she went to middle school in Rome, and we kept discovering all these strange things, that they lived on the same street where my husband's sculpture studio was in Trastevere, and it wasn't a famous street. It was a little tiny street called the Vicolo del Cedro. So we talked, I'd seen the script and I loved it, and we talked a little bit about the movie, but mostly we talked about Italy and Yvonne Rainer and dance and all kind of things like that. And then the first time I met Sarah was on set. In the first scene we were shooting, I arrived on... I flew from New York on Tuesday morning to Pasadena, and we started shooting on Tuesday afternoon. And we had to finish by the 1st of July because that was the month of June before the strike. So we had to shoot it in 18 and a half days. So the first scene that we shot was the one in the elevator with Carol and Michelle. And so there were 3 of us in the elevator. Well, 4 of us, because there was Gabe, and Gabe is 6'8".
A little nugget.
A little. And I knew it was going to be all right away. We both did. We trusted each other. Sarah and I trusted each other, and all the other actors in the movie are extraordinary artists. And so it was that thing. There was immediate generosity. And so it was okay from then on. And we'd have huge discussions about things. In the short time, we only had 8 hours to shoot, so you couldn't talk too long. But anyway, things like, what would Ruth's reaction to that toothbrush be? And we'd go back and forth and have different ideas about it. And then finally, we'd either decide one or the other of those things or do something else. But we were all doing the same thing at the same time, which was miraculous, really.
For actors listening, when it doesn't come so organically, that partnership, do you have any advice for actors of how to form a partnership and a bond so that both they and their director are heard and respected?
Sometimes it's impossible, because there's a way in which movie sets particularly are hierarchical, and until recently have been patriarchal. But the thing you need to do, the only way that you can make a connection is if everybody agrees that they're all doing something worthwhile. So you have to find some area of communication, and sometimes you can't. And then you have to decide whether the job's worth it or not. And sometimes you should leave. Because sometimes, we don't always have the luxury to do that. But sometimes if the circumstance is toxic, there's no point in going on.
Ruth has a history as a chef. How have you found the best for you personally to learn and immerse yourself in your character's profession or hobbies?
Oh, you mean in this actual case? I had the best.
Go for it.
I had the best coach, because it was the writer of the Moosewood Cookbook. And she was there all the time. For the whole time, when we did all the cooking, and I have okay knife skills, but she taught me things. This thing about, which is a great thing to know. When you hold the knife, you shouldn't hold it by the handle. You have to feel the steel. And it's a little dangerous, because your middle finger, if you're not really careful, can feel the steel in a way that you don't mean. But it gives you absolute control of the knife. So that was swell. I have to say, we got through a lot of grapefruits. A lot of grapefruits.
With playing a character with cognitive decline, what were some of the more challenging moments or scenes for you personally, having that personal connection with your friend and that familiarity with what Ruth was experiencing?
What was interesting is the only parts of it that were hard for me were the parts that were hard for Ruth. When she's when she's betrayed and runs through the garage, that was hard. And when she's lost in the street. But those were the things that were hard. The other things weren't hard, because they weren't hard for Ruth. From the inside, she was in control.
Yeah. How do you emotionally prepare going into that day, and then also ground yourself and leave it at the set and go home and be yourself?
Well, I used to think, I think we all used to think you'd go to acting class and you're taught all kind of ways to gin up your emotion and all that. So you spend all your time going like...
I've seen a lot of people like that in acting class. Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
And the older I've gotten, the more I believe in a kind of radical relaxation. Particularly if you've done it for a long time, you really do have to believe that you know how to do something. It's actually a thing. I have to. This has nothing to do with the movie, but this is really the first time I deeply understood that acting was a thing, like singing and dancing and all. It's a thing, and this was because Corin Redgrave was a friend of a family friend, and Corin had a stroke, and there were cognitive difficulties and all like that, and he was staying with us once, and this just sounds like name dropping, but Vanessa came over to visit Corin, and Vanessa and I were in the kitchen making lemonade, and Corin was in our living room, and the man who was the head of the Center for Constitutional Rights had come to bring Corin poems written by detainees at Guantanamo Bay. And so Vanessa and I were making lemonade, and Corin began to read these poems, and it made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And that's when I knew that acting was a thing. And I was 60 years old, so I've been doing it for a long time. You know, that the sort of doubt we all have that maybe it's just talking. It's not.
Well, that radical relaxation, was there someone that gave you that validation or permission, or did you find that within yourself? Do you remember?
It's something I sort of figured out. I spent years like that. And it was exhausting. And if you're in a long run for a play, you can't do that. I mean, you know. So I guess I figured it out. And it served me well. You sort of empty yourself and believe that if you've done all the work that you have control over, that somehow when you open your mouth, the thing that you want to come out will come out.
Yeah. Filming on location in Pasadena in a retirement facility.
Community.
Community, excuse me. Community, yes, thank you. We're going to edit that out, hopefully.
Lord.
How did that immersive environment and being with residents, how did that elevate or just reassure your choices and just enrich the experience for you?
Well, it was overall swell, but I have to say that I did the thing that any of us would do. So I went to Villa Gardens, hadn't any preparation, and walked in, and I was contemporary of everyone who was there. And so on the first day, it was very important that it was clear that I was an actor and I didn't live there. But because of the extraordinary people who lived there, that there's a wonderful Italian word for attitude, that atteggiamento went away after maybe half a day, because Villa Gardens is an extraordinary place, and it's mostly the majority of the people who are there are educators, and between setups, I would just talk to the people who were there, because there are lots of people who were extras, and there were amazing stories. There were, sociology professors from the University of Chicago, people who rescued large animals and put them on their ranch in Northern California, Frederick March's niece. All amazing people. And they also kept me honest, because, as Sarah often says, Video Village was really a village. Lots of people were watching. So that, you had to... And they had all said to Sarah, a thing that was very important was that to investigate the humor in life, and not laughing at people, but laughing with people, and they said it's often ridiculous here. It's kind of funny a lot. So all of those, it was wonderful to be in that community, and it just kept me honest, I think.
I believe every project or opportunity teaches us something if we're open to it. What's something you'll take with you from your time with Ruth?
I think the thing I understand is that you're alive until you're not.
What do you hope audiences take away from Ruth and her journey?
Well, there are two things that are important to us about the movie. One is this notion that you're alive until you're not. And the other is the importance of caregiving. Because Villa Gardens is clearly a place for privileged people. But if we had a sensible labor policy in this country, we would understand that this work, that work, is noble work. That work is the work that makes all the rest of our lives possible. Caregiving from people who help you with your children until people who help you with your grandparents, or when you're the grandparent, help you. And so it's important to both Sarah and me that we talk about this and realize that if caregiving were considered noble work in the way that for some reason that completely escapes me, coal mining is considered noble work, and was valued in the same way and paid properly, every single person could be looked after with the care that the people at Villa Gardens are looked after.
With a beautiful career in so many mediums, how do you keep curiosity alive for yourself? And the caveat I will put on that is when perhaps roles or scripts seem familiar, like you've seen this before, but you're approaching it in a new, curious way.
You know what? I've been so lucky that hardly ever happens.
Lucky girl.
Yeah. I've realized how lucky I've been, and I like the work. I like the job part of the job, which keeps it alive. I think that's why. And I'm old and have a pension because we all belong to a union, and so it's okay. So I don't have to do everything that everybody asks.
There we go. How has your creative process evolved in your career, and do you have a habit of one, like memorization or finding a vocal quality or a physicality? Do you have something that you start with as you build the character?
I don't. I think I have. I know it's become much more. The older I get, the more mysterious it becomes to me, how it happens, so that the things I concentrate on are the things you have control over, all the practical learning, the words and where you're supposed to stand and who it is. A certain amount of research, but the difficulty with research is that often you find a character that you would have done rather than the thing that's written. So that I try to find most of what I know about the character in the work itself. And this sort of search for radical relaxation and to listen to the other person.
Looking over your career and your beautiful body of work, is there a role or story you'd want to revisit now with life experience, a little different point of view?
Well, it's funny, we were talking about it. I couldn't do this because I'm way too old now, but when I was 17 years old, my high school drama teacher put on Hedda Gabler for me. I played Hedda Gabler. I had no idea why she killed herself, but I could play a mean Tarantella. So that was. So I never got to play Hedda again. And once, when I was about 35, which was too old for Hedda, I believe, I woke up and sat up in bed, and I knew how to play the part that day. So it would have been nice to have done that.
Just for fun, because it's a room of actors, do you have a most memorable or impactful audition experience? Oh, that kid. Well, now I really want to hear.
God, no, a dark veil has passed over them all. Oh, one time, isn't this funny? The only one I remember was the audition for Rescue Me, the TV series, and I had an idea, was some dumb idea for the character, and I did it, and I got the job, and it was a nice job. It was fun working on Rescue Me. It went on for a long time. I didn't expect, but that was one of the few times when I went into the audition thinking, oh, I got an idea for this. And I did it. And the rest of it's darkness. And I hope I don't ever have to do that again.
Some of that self-preservation, just block it out. As we wind down, for artists in the early stages of their career, the unknown can be scary, daunting, overwhelming, just confusing. Is there any advice or encouragement you'd like to share as we close?
Well, it is scary. And so it's not, they say, you're not paranoid if you think somebody's trying to kill you, if somebody's trying to kill you. It's just realistic. So it's a fairly scary proposition to do this. I think that what's useful is to give yourself tools that make you feel confident. Something that really, if you know, it's also good for auditions. If there's a piece that you know really well, and you know that you do it really well, it's good to have it sort of here, and you can just check in when despair strikes, or you think, I'm glad I don't live on a high floor, things like that. It's good to have a tool to touch that way.
Will you all please join me again in thanking Kathleen for her beautiful work?
Thank you so much.